What up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, and we got kind of a big one for you out of nowhere here today because Wizards done burnt the spaghetti again. Look, I'm supposed to be doing a deck tech today. A good one, too. It's mono black aggro, been having fun with it, kind of addicted to it low-key, and I can't wait to bring it to you. Sometimes Magic is a really fun hobby, but today I get to spend my time peeling noodles off the ceiling fan because Wizards done blown up the pasta pot again. Now, in case you hadn't heard about any of the goings-on yet, it concerns your favorite thing in the world, Universes Beyond. Yeah, I know how much everybody loves Universes Beyond. And specifically, it pertains to Universes Beyond in digital. Now, first of all, before I really get into it, they made it clear this announcement's only going to affect certain Universes Beyond, specifically the Marvel products. For instance, the Spider-Man set that's coming out in a few months here. Check's watch that he's not wearing, but yeah, still, the Spider-Man set is kind of coming relatively soon, and you're going to be able to open that in paper, right? You just go down to your LGS or whatever, buy some Spider-Man packs, open them up, play any Commander or whatever. But if you're playing on MTG Arena or MTGO, if you're playing digital Magic of any kind, you're not going to be opening the Spider-Man set. And that's because on Arena, you'll be opening an identical set in terms of mechanics, but completely different in terms of the names of the cards and the characters involved and the artwork. Now, as you process the information I've just provided, you probably have two questions immediately spring to mind. The first being, what? And kind of a puzzled Pomeranian look on your face. And then second, why? These are both really good questions, and I'll answer the second one first for no particular reason. I just think it's the more obvious answer, even though Wizards didn't come out and say this. I would imagine that there's a 99.99 repeating a million times chance that the whole reason we're not getting these Universes Beyond like Marvel sets in digital is because Wizards failed to acquire the rights for them for some reason, either because they cost $1 nillion a piece, and they probably do, or because those rights weren't on the table to begin with, because products like Marvel Snap exist. But at the time, signing these contracts, Wizards probably thought, well, we really like money, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The problem is now we are firmly directly in front of that bridge, and it's really narrow and old, and it's missing planks. Looks a little bit Bridge of Deathy, so they got to cobble together some sort of solution to this, and I guess this is the best they could do. But I will say, we did all learn something from this, and that's the fact that apparently commissioning 280 separate pieces of art and also paying for all the labor hours for creative types to come up with new names and lore for everything in the set is apparently still less expensive than buying the digital rights for a thing. But back to your original question, which if you remember was, huh? I'll just kind of repeat myself because I think it bears repeating a little bit. I've seen a lot of people confused about what exactly Wizards is doing here. So again, once that Spider-Man set rolls around, you can buy it in paper when it comes out. You can get it from your LGS, play some Commander. You can even play standard F&M and stuff with it. You can play any format you want to in paper Magic with them Spider-Man cards. But if you're playing on MTG Arena or Magic the Gathering Online, you will instead be opening a mechanically identical set where all the cards do all the same things that the cards in the Spider-Man set do, but they have different names, characters, and artwork that doesn't reference IP that would otherwise be against copyright law. Now that you're caught up on the news, to put it bluntly, I think this is going to be one of the biggest messes in the history of Magic the Gathering. And yeah, I know that like Magic 30 was a thing and everybody hated it, but that wasn't so much a logistical nightmare that will confuse countless players as this is. I really think that this is an unmitigated disaster at the end of the day. Now, I've already made that opinion that this is a massive mess known over on the socials. And as a result, I've gotten to talk to a few of you, or at least hear your opinion about the whole hullabaloo. And through that process, I've noticed that there's a somewhat common response that I've gotten 3 or 4 times in the replies, but there's also one that I thought was like somewhat interesting and thought-provoking, and I want to bring up here. But the first reply that I guess is the most common one is some version of, this actually isn't that big of a deal, and it's not going to be very hard to follow at all. It's not very complicated, as a matter of fact. To which I'd like to say, you know what? You make a good point. And on a completely, entirely unrelated note, which Magic card is this Godzilla card a reskin of? Oh, and actually, while I have you, there's another trivia question I'd like to see if you can answer for me. What is Geese's favorite shovel a reskin of? Do you remember? Having trouble remembering. Actually, that's right. It's a reskin of a Universes Beyond card, the Walking Dead card that depicted Negan's bat. That's right. Did you know that? Maybe you did, and maybe you know what that Godzilla's a reskin of, but do you think every single Magic player in the world does? I mean, I know you're a Magic player, you don't like to concede, but can you concede the point, maybe, that for some crossover players especially, it might be a little much to keep up with 2 different versions of, like, every card in a specific set between paper and digital. Can you admit that maybe for someone that has been playing mostly Arena for a long time and they want to branch out into maybe Paper Commander, that now they have to like figure out what the cards they've been playing with are based on in the first place, and how that might be a little aggravating and time consuming? Or what about the fact that the easiest way to identify a card on site as quickly as possible is the art? So let's say I'm looking for a specific card that I really enjoy playing in digital. Well, here's a problem. I'm probably going to be scanning through all those paper cards looking for the artwork. Can't identify it that way, and that is a real actual issue when you're trying to like locate the card that you want. And these all sound like small issues, but there are only some of the issues I could potentially bring up when it comes to the logistics of this as Magic players. It's not just as simple as like memorizing two different versions of the same card, but I ask you, why should we have to do that in the first place? I mean, especially from the content creator angle, I got questions like, how is preview season exactly going to work? Are you going to show us both versions of the card during preview season? And then I got to edit two different images of the card in so that you know exactly which one's the Arena one and which one's the paper one. It's just like, as a content creator, it's a whole thing, but that only affects like 5,000 people in the world. The fact that, you know, the cards on Arena are going to be completely different from the cards in paper is going to affect a far greater number of players. And not to mention, let's say that you don't show us both versions of the card every time you show us a card during preview season. Well, now, once the set comes out a week early, as usual on Arena and MTGO, we're going to be opening up packs and stuff and having to be like, wait, which card is this? Oh, this one's Doc Ock. Which one is this? Okay, it's Mysterio. And like, that seems like a bit of a headache. So to answer your original concern, which was something along the lines of, isn't this actually easy to keep up with? Yeah, kind of, but there's also logistics to it that I just don't think everyone is going to have the easiest time with, especially considering it's a lot more complicated than just, well, there's two different versions of each card. Like, that is the bottom line of it, but there's a lot that stems out from that. And there are probably a ton of other issues that we're just like not considering yet and will become more evident once this is actually a reality. So I keep that in mind too, but this just further separates like digital players from paper players in a lot of ways that I just don't really care for, to be honest. And really, those concerns about like further divisions between the digital and paper player bases kind of dovetail into the interesting reply that I got, which was basically someone asking, isn't this kind of what players wanted? I think there are going to be a few people who see it this way, and honestly, more power to them. You know what I mean? Like, if this is what you wanted at the end of the day, then I guess you're getting it, and that's awesome. But ultimately, I think that a question like that, sorry to say, kind of misses the point of what players were saying they wanted in the first place. First of all, I should probably point out that most of the entrenched, not all, but a lot of the entrenched Magic players that I've known would probably have just preferred it if you didn't do Universes Beyond in the first place, right? I mean, but them notwithstanding, there's also the point that, no, I don't think this addresses what paper players wanted. And honestly, paper players are the ones that have been voicing their concerns the most. Like, I'm going to use one of my buddies to make a point here. Sorry, friend, but, you know, is the Professor a guy that when you hear his name, you think Magic Online or Magic Arena? No, you think paper Magic when you hear his name and a bunch of other folks that are synonymous with Magic the Gathering. We play paper Magic on occasion, and this does nothing to address paper Magic players' concerns. As a matter of fact, in kind of a bitter, almost ironic twist, if you want to play with real Magic the Gathering sets that aren't based on IP that already exists from different companies, like let's say that you wanted to play with cards that feel like Magic the Gathering cards, you weirdly have to play digitally now, which again is probably not what those paper players wanted in the first place. I mean, I don't want to like speak for paper players or anything, but I can say somewhat confidently that paper players probably didn't have the take, well, as long as they don't touch digital, okay? You know, as long as I don't have to play Spider-Man on Arena, I'll be fine. I don't think I've ever heard a paper Magic player say that, and I never will. Like, I don't think Arena was their line in the sand. I'm pretty sure SpongeBob in their Commander game was their line of the sand, and that's been crossed, so maybe Wizards just doesn't care. However, this take does at least acknowledge that if you want to experience Magic the Gathering as more Magic the Gathering than, you know, Spider-Man, then there's an avenue through which to do that. I just think that a lot of people are a little upset, for a good reason, that these cards that are on digital clients won't be available in paper, at least from what we know so far. But if nothing else, I guess the positive thing about this take is that it does acknowledge that if you don't want to play against Sonic the Hedgehog in Standard, you don't have to. You can play Arena, but it's kind of not enough for me. Ultimately, I just don't think this is a super elegant solution. And you might say, hey, Dev, what you got? What's your solution? And it's like, I don't know. I wasn't paid by Wizards of the Coast to come up with a solution, and I'm pretty sure the people that were paid to come up with a solution came up with a bad solution, and I'm allowed to say that. But if you absolutely require a solution from me right now where you just won't ever be able to eat pancakes again, then I guess what I would have done is gone back in time and never made these Standard legal in the first place. I think there's a huge contingent of Magic players that would say, I'll just never do them at all, they're stupid, and I'm really fun at barbecues. And okay, buddy, your opinion is valid too, and honestly, it's looking more valid by the day. That slope really did get slippery fast. But at the same time, I'm not as adverse to these as a lot of players are. I think Universes Beyond have a chance at being really fun, at bringing new players into the game. And even entrenched players have the chance of liking a Universes Beyond. People love Lord of the Rings. I'm going to love Final Fantasy, right? But at the same time, maybe you should have just never made these Standard playable. Or for that matter, Modern playable or Legacy and Vintage playable. I don't know that these cards should have ever been playable in any format beyond Commander ever. You could have just kept making Commander precons, and that should have been fine. But no, you said that Universes Beyond were going to be Standard legal now against everyone's wishes, and you knew that everyone was going to hate it. And now you're announcing that Standard Universes Beyond going to be Standard legal still, but only really in paper. You see, on digital, you're going to be playing this whole other set that's the same set, but it's not the same set. And people are like, what? You know what I mean? What? These are ridiculous announcements that you keep like backing yourself into a corner having to make. And you just kind of, like every day you put on, one more piece of a clown outfit, and that ensemble's getting pretty complete here. They got the shoes, the nose, and the hat at this point, and I just really don't see how it isn't embarrassing to have to come out here and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like a completely improvised plan to me. I mean, I get playing it by ear. I wasn't prepared for this YouTube video whatsoever, but I'm also not at the helm of $1 billion+ company. You know what I mean? I just feel like maybe you could have come up with something a little bit better than all this in the first place. But I guess the counter from their end would be, but Dev, the money. And it's like, yeah, I know the money, whatever. And even as far as the money goes as an argument, I mean, you need people to buy your cards on the ground level, but I know you don't really care about those people. You care a lot more about the shareholders, and establishing all these UB contracts probably really pleases the shareholders. But you know what doesn't please shareholders usually? This kind of ridiculous clown shoes volatility. You know what I mean? And if there's one phrase that will strike fear in Hasbro's hearts, it is the shareholders. So I don't even know how they're going to end up liking this announcement at the end of the day, or the execution, which is what we really have to wait to see. I mean, right now the entire market is like one big iced over pond, and in that kind of environment, are you going to invest in a company with lava shoes? Probably not. I mean, again, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner here, and maybe they feel like this is the only real solution, but it just feels very embarrassing for them to kind of sheepishly poke their head in the door like, hey guys, couldn't get the digital rights. Yeah, sorry. So here's what we're going to do. We can't have a pizza party, so we're going to have burgers that taste just like pizza. Does that sound good? And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? So again, we'll see how all this shakes out at the end. But I want to know how you guys feel about it. I feel like it's silly. I guess I'm just in shock, I followed my rule for these like op-ed videos. I always try to give myself 24 hours to think about it, to sleep on it, to not be so, like before I make a video, you know what I mean? I like to kind of chill out and think about it from different angles before I just come out here and make an idiot of myself on the internet, because I do a good enough job of that as it is without thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it. But like I said, I gave myself the 24 hours, and all I can really say is, this is stupid. Usually I have a better take than that. But maybe that just means it actually is stupid. You guys let me know how you feel down there in the comments section. But you know what? Before we get out of here, I've got some time, you know what, to make things normal around here, to make things feel normal, like Magic the Gathering. If you guys remember that, it was a really good game. We're going to do the couch card of the day. I haven't done one of these in like a year or something like that. You guys remember the couch card of the day? Let's see what this card is right here, everybody. It's a Root Coil Creeper. It is a Root Coil Creeper. So this is Simic colors for a 2/2 plant horror that just rotated out of Standard. You can tap it for a mana of any color, or you can tap it for 2 mana of 1 color, but you can only use that mana to cast spells from your graveyard. You can also pay its casting cost, tap it, and exile it to return a card with flashback you own from exile to your hand. Man, Creeper is all right, dude. This card does so much. Man. Like, you can cast spells from your graveyard. Doesn't even say just flashback, you know. You cast, like, harmonized spells now with this guy. Spending, 2 mana for a mana dork that ramps 2 is actually really good. And then, like, you get back your Winter Night stories or whatever from your yard at the end of the game. So, Recoil Creeper is just going to get better and better the more things that you can play out of your graveyard are printed, you know. I've always liked this kind of guy. Just a 2-mana 2/2 that taps for any color. Like, okay, we're getting there. Back in the day we were. Just a random uncommon now, but yeah, I like Creeper. Anyway, you guys remember Magic the Gathering? It's a fun game. But anyway, again, let me know what your thoughts are down there in the comments section. And do all the YouTube stuff. Hit the button shaped like a thumb. That apparently puts me in more recommendeds. You can also share the video on your various socials and stuff. That will definitely, literally drop me directly into people's recommendeds, and I would appreciate it. But you can also check out the Patreon if you feel like it. Just $1 a month to vote on content. It really helps out around here. You can also subscribe to the sausage. Subscribe to the sandwich if you haven't done it yet. That would mean a lot to me. We're trying to get to 150, and we're actually not too far off, so that would please me greatly. But anyway, it would also make me feel very nice if you would just tell me how you feel about the stuff, because I want to gather data and opinions and then learn from it, which is important to do, in my opinion. You got to have a data set in the first place if you're going to have thoughts on a subject. But anyway, just give me your delicious thoughts down there in the comment section, and I will catch you cats later, because right now I'm donezo with this one. So I'm Deb from the Blaze. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.